You're going to be You're going to be Raphael. I'm going to be Donatello. So side turtle. So, in any position we get into, right now we're going to use side turtle just as our reference point. In any position, you always have to recognize, okay, there is a primary threat on the table, that one. Secondary threat or control hand on the table, that one. So always start paying attention to the primary, because more than likely that one's going after my neck. That's its primary attack. Yeah, are there other attacks on the other side? Absolutely. But for the most part, Mike has to move to a new position to make that threat viable. Okay? So as soon as Mike starts coming in, that hand we need to shrug that shoulder, get that hand in place, okay, and steer him as far away from the neck as possible. Okay. Now through here, I'm going to go 2-on-1 to start to control him. Okay. I can give him a little bump to push in so that when I pull away, I want space. Now we're going to release, go up and over the shoulder, okay, still holding on to that wrist. Open up your leg, slide to the inside. Okay, you can pull guard, that's fine. Okay, what I want to do through here is I want to create my butterfly so that I have my kimura, which is going to start to crank, and I have my butterfly so that I can roll him over. Generally speaking, I did a seminar, and Comprito said, whenever possible, go to the back. Okay. I took that, and it's worked out well for me. When you have a path that diverges, and both paths look equal, is that choose the back more often. So it actually worked out pretty good advice. I've taken that other steps further. When I have something in play, and I could either finish it off my back, or sweep them and finish it on top, I'm choosing to finish on top. So that because again, what's the success rate of most techniques? If it fails, I would prefer to be in a better position than being in an inferior position. And again, we can have our personal opinions of how we feel about guard versus other stuff, but if we look at the vast majority of everything, being on your back is not considered to be the best place to be, okay? And being on top, that's why all point systems are on top. There's no point systems on bottom. Okay? If we're talking about real fighting, real self-defense, real threats, real results, being on top has better advantages than being the one on bottom. So if I have the chance, I'm personally choosing to advance the position with my attack and then finish on top, rather than just pull guard and then go for it. And then when he pulls out, now I'm already back, at an almost regressing in my advancement. So again, Mike's in, okay, that hand, block, we're gonna feed, give him a push so that when I separate, I can have this space. Shift and lock. Don't lock your hands up, just put your hand in play. Now, I slide in, putting my butterfly in play is not that bad, and push the hand towards the hips so we can lock. He will roll more because of the kimura than the butterfly. So don't think it's all about the butterfly. Okay, through here, I'm going to do nothing, and Mike can choose to either tap or roll. I'm just using the butterfly to help him. Okay, same move. If you asked me 15 years ago, I probably would pull guard. Sliding in, lock him up. Now I choose a butterfly, and I choose to sweep him. It's a personal choice. You get to make yours. But for this set, you have to do mine. All right, let's give it a shot. Don't get me wrong. The missions are why we play the game. I mean, it's going to a boxing match and seeing a knockout. It's the ultimate way of playing the game. And when I was first starting off, when I was a white belt, man, that's all it was about. Everything was about the submission. Every piece of it. Like just as soon as you saw an opportunity, grab that arm, grab that leg, and go for it. As I've gotten a little deeper into the game, we really started looking, we're always like, what, that's a high percentage submission. Really? What's its failure rate? it's a high percentage submission compared to the other submissions. We were talking last night, this one is twice as good as the other one. Okay, well, this one fails 1 out of every 100, or is successful 1 out of every 100. This other one is successful twice. It's double, it's twice as effective, right? But what's its failure rate? Most submissions have a high failure rate. When we talk about this is a high percentage submission, okay, we don't talk about the failure rates. We just talk about it compared to when submissions happen, the percentage of them that are this submission versus the percentage that are this submission. This is when we start to refer to high percentage versus low percentage. But the reality is nearly all submissions have a high failure rate in the process. So the big path I've been going down is saying, well, if they fail a lot, and especially as you get into higher level jiu-jitsu, first submission is almost never the one that lands, which means the first submission has a super high failure rate. But what does it lead to? So I've been really kind of pushing more on this pathway of saying, if the submission's going to fail a lot, then what movement can I use the submission to create? And that tends to be, when we want to talk about percentages, the success rate of the submission is here. The pressure that creates movement is a way higher percentage when we start putting things together in that category. Because again, we only talk about, it's a comparative. This one is more successful than this one, but like I said, failure rates are still pretty high. And so as I'm going through, I'm trying to create or look at, not really create, looking at the exit strategy, how to get to the next position or the next submission in play to increase my odds for the next one in line. It's like setting them up with a jab so that I can hit with the right hand, rather than just going out like most people are gonna do. I'm just gonna throw overhand rights the whole fight. That's great, but it's much better if I set them up with the other hand. Okay? Jabs are the #1 most successful strike in all of combat sports. But how many people get knocked out by it? But it sets up what's going to come next. So when you start thinking about your game like that, it's going to change, because all people do right now is they go out and they just throw overhand rights, just always going for that big sub, but they don't think about that sub just being the setup. Of just, I'm going to put something in play so that I can change it up to hit the counter when it goes through. All right, Mike. So now I'm playing the top person. So what I'm looking for through here is I'm trying to create openings on Mike. I know the moment I bring this hand in, Mike is probably going to start to defend it. That needs to be his game plan. But I know that the moment that happens, that if he grabs me, grab, okay, then by definition, I'm connected to him. When I move, he moves, unless he chooses to let go. So this can start to create opportunity. So when he's holding on, coming in through here, this now tells me where the other arm is, because he's as engaged in mine. So sometimes I'll put it in like a sacrifice. I'll let Mike make the connection, because I know now where he's at, and he's going to be fairly committed to what's going on. Okay, so now that he's connected to me here, okay, then I can start to play around. When this is here, now I can come in, because now the likelihood is this hand isn't going to run from me. He's connected to me. So when that hand gets the one-on-one now, I'm in a much better position. Now, yeah, he can try to make his fat man roll, or the Peterson, or the like, but when we know that this is one of the potentials, when I make this connection and Mike starts trying to drop that shoulder like he's going to go in, good, I'm just going to move my hips and follow him to the other side. Because most of what he has to do, and this becomes also part of when we're looking at point, repoint, things of that nature, is most of the things, when we talk about chokes, we have the primary, and we have the secondary. Secondary doesn't come into play till he moves. He can grab onto me all he wants. The attack doesn't happen until his hips change to a new position. So I don't really have to worry about that secondary piece. We concentrate on the primary. So I can almost dictate, when I go into position through here, I can almost dictate at this point, he will grab me. Okay? If I'm doing this by choice and he grabs me, who's in charge? Mike thinks that he's doing this. This was my intended outcome. Okay? So now that he's connected here, my ability to get into the one-on-one is a lot easier. Okay? Now again through here, I can anticipate that he might start to try to roll, but I'm already on the outside of his hips and knee. So if he starts to drop, okay, if I move to the other side of his hips, I can sit him up. I have a one-on-one already in play, and my hand is already primed to potentially start going after his neck or potentially any other position that I might like. But even through here, he's all holding on to me. Okay? So then I like to just walk them back. And now I've taken him from table with a very easy pass, mostly being generated by what he's going to think is his success. I'm really focusing in a lot more on trying to create movements and motions. So I can attack him from turtle, okay? But how many wrestlers every single day explode out of that position? Trying to restand, break, and everything else. I need to get him off his hips, or I need to make a connection as quickly as I can, and then start to change how we're going to play. So again, I'm in. I tend to play with this hand on the outside so he can't hit the fat man or the Peterson too quick. Okay? When my hand slips, guaranteed he's going to grip. This hand's not going to move because he thinks he's got something good. That's when now I can slip in, make my connection. Then through here, we're going to shift. Go to the other side. Now I can lay him down. Oh, thank you, Mike. And now we get to play with what we want. So we're going to make our connection. The part that's going to be the more difficult for you, and it's not really that bad, is when he rolls, is moving your hips to the other side. We roll through. We don't get, he doesn't land on me. He lands near me. Or I land on my knees first, and then I can steal the roll from him. As many targets as possible. And if we ever claim that this thing is about self-defense, okay, you're not aiming for a single target. You don't know what your target is. You have to aim for the generalities. If it works 95% of the time, or if it fails 95% of the time, we have to make our choices based off of what the biggest reactions are going to be more successful against any opponent that may present itself. And in self-defense, I have no clue who my opponent is. Okay? Does he move well? Does he not move well? I don't know. Do you think you have the luxury of making all of these assessments in the middle of this thing? That's why no-gi, I don't believe is superior, but it is first. Okay? And so because it's first, if you have an arm, I can grip it. Otherwise, you don't have an arm, and that arm's not a threat. So if you have an arm, I can grip it, and after I grip it, I can determine if you're wearing a sleeve. But I can't make that determination if I've been blindsided. I have to just hook for the arm and grab. So gi versus no gi, it's not an argument, but no gi is always first. No gi is the first assessment because pressure is determined by either the presence of the limb or not. Whatever gives me pressure is grippable. But whether or not there's a fabric there, whether or not there's a piece I can grab onto, I can't determine that till later. So if I was going with other people, and I used to do it all the time, and then I'm going with Christian, and he just balls up and he rolls right out of my back take attempt. So it took me a while, but I had to start getting to the point where sitting him up and staying on my knees became the better option for me. Now, if I do want a back take from there, I just play it a little different. So if I want the back take, actually first, let me do the first one with Hans. Okay. So when I start to roll you over, and I go for the back take, like most people are going to do, they're going to hook up, they're going to pull backwards. Hans is just going to ball up, and he's just going to ride the lightning. He's going to stay with my energy as I pull. Okay. So let's just go for my knees. Sit down, feet out in front. And turn.
And turtle?
Just turn. feet out front. There you go. So generally, we landed in this position. Now right now, he's grabbing my wrist, okay, and I had the one-on-one. Okay? So a lot of people are coming in and they're going here. And more than likely, I did all of it for him. Okay? That can be difficult to beat, especially if he's prepped for it. Because again, I'm pulling. That's what most people do. Already seated, look at this. He's already made most of his connections the moment he sat up. So he's not even doing anything special. He's just maintaining what he's already in, and I'm the one that has to pull him. So trying to get to his legs can be sometimes a little bit more difficult. So when I'm here going in, what I'll do is I'll take him and I'll start to lean him. Okay? Now, if I lean him back, he'll start turning to his belly and he'll start trying to scramble. Okay? So when I go in, I'll lean him this direction. So then I'll put my hooks in that manner. Because then what it's doing is, I already have a one-on-one on the one hand. If I crunch him forward and then lean him, his chances of being able to go to his belly and generate any kind of real power. And if he does generate power, what direction is he going to go? Okay. Actually, his feet are going to go into the floor, and he's going to push so he can drive his back. Guess what he is separating in the process? He's separating his knees from his chest, actually giving me more opening. So now if he pushes into me, my legs can actually make it into the back take a lot easier. But when I'm here, okay, and I'm here, see, his grip, if he ever lets go, okay, I just grip. But right now, his grip is my grip. It's mine. So I'm going to lean him forward, push him in, okay? Most people from here don't really have a whole lot of power, and it can be very difficult for him to really move anywhere else. So then once I'm here, we throw it in, then we put our leg in. Like I said, otherwise, happens every once in a while. I'm here, and I'm pushing him forward. He'll start to push back. Let's see what's happening with his legs. In order for him to have power, he has to push into the floor, and it opens up the opportunity. But now granted though, the moment you roll back, guess where those knees are going? They're coming back. And if you're not ready, over the top he's gonna go, or over a shoulder he's gonna go, and you're not gonna get your back take anyway. So now let's try that. Put him into that seated position, and just push them forward like you're gonna push in between their legs, and then play the angle. I like going after this one because I already control the arm. Chances of him peeling my leg out, right here, it's just leg on leg violence. He can't use that arm to really do anything, but both of my arms are locked up on that one. So more than likely, as soon as I roll him to that side, he has an arm free. Very possible he goes, puts his arm to the ground. One more exposure that I'm potentially looking at. If we want to go into like a triangle or something of that nature, okay, I got two legs. He puts the arm down, and now he exposes it. I can put a leg on top of his shoulder. I could do a couple different things. But let's try the back take. Okay.